Okay, so let's start this commentary out with a story. So I'm out doing my usual everyday things, you know, taking candy from babies, torturing prisoners, and nothing out of the ordinary. But then, when I was minding my own business, I just tripped over something, just tripped under my feet, and fell straight to the ground. So I screamed for a few minutes, then I realized I could still walk, so I got up, and looked at what caused me to descend upon the crust of the earth. And no shocker, it was a video. And I said to myself, I could do something with this. So that's what brings me here today. Oh, and Pokemon Sun and Moon were announced. Probably should have made that clear.
Yesterday, Pokemon Sun and Moon got announced. Now that is exciting because I've been wanting them to make a new Pokemon game for quite a while now. And they haven't announced until now.
And it's time for the complimentary technical difficulties complaint. Dude, your music and voice's volume are way too similar. Not helping that your voice is extremely quiet compared to your music, making them blend in time to time and making it harder to make out what you're saying. And yeah, when I first watched this, there were times where his voice got completely muffled by the music. And no, this isn't me saying,
don't use music, it's distracting.
But at the very least, cut the music down and try to make it easier to concentrate on your voice.
Because I know they kind of thought they might do, seeing as it's 20 years of Pokemon. So it would be a bit lazy of them to just do some spin-offs and not like even announce a new Pokemon game. But I really hope they don't screw this one up, because X and Y, I know lots of people enjoy it, but I didn't.
Okay, what even is that hellish sound? Yeah, let's ignore that your video is already distracting and hard to pay attention to due to your quiet voice and semi-high music, but in any video, having a random happen in your recording is really distracting and can easily break concentration. And seeing how this only happens a few times in the video, it appears to be something that you can prevent. So TLDR, don't do it. And in that short chance that you were not the one responsible for the sound, or you actually cannot prevent it, can I at the very least suggest doing retakes in place of said distractions?
You could have liked that game, and I just didn't. I got bored halfway through. It was quite good at the start. I don't get why you need 5 rivals in the game. I found that a bit ridiculous.
You know, I just love this quick change in pace. Yeah, X and Y got boring halfway through. Oh, and I didn't like the number of rivals. Okay, it's obvious you're not using a script. Seeing how you awkwardly stumble in your wording and how you flip-flop your topics so quickly with little to no explanation nor notice. I'm not saying that going unscripted is bad per se, but if you're going to give pitiful explanations and transitions to your discussions, I'd highly recommend starting off with a script to allow yourself to gather all information you need for a video. Then, maybe down the road, try going unscripted to see if you've gotten better in this aspect.
But Black and White was just a really good game. I really liked those games. I really liked all the gyms were fun, and like the story was actually good. And they ruined it with Black and White 2, which was very disappointing. Literally, they called it a sequel. All they did was add in one more gym and just some older Pokemon, which was stupid.
Wait. What? Black 2 and White 2 were underwhelming as sequels because they only added one new gym and older Pokemon? What? What? Come on, man. Enough joking around. Give us the actual reason. Wait. He's actually serious, isn't he? Oh, he is? Well, this is unexpected. Let me just sit down a minute. I'm gonna need a breather. And some therapy for this. Yeah. Oh my god, just help me. Crawling in my skin, he swears I will. Here's how I fall, confusing what is all. Okay, I pulled myself together. And I have my point scripted and ready. Let's just start this. I'm sorry, but what game were you playing exactly? Because the last time I played my copy of Black 2, the game's had 2 new gyms, an overall expanded region with several new locations to explore, a new protagonist, a revamped order to explore Univers during the story, and the most important aspect that pulls all of this together, a new story that continues from and answers any previous questions from the original Pokemon Black and White. I don't know about you, but that kinda sounds like a proper sequel. Now let me say, I'm not trying to say that you have to like the story of the game, but dancing around it and acting like the story wasn't a main focal point of the game is, to be frank, kinda silly.
And then X and Y came out, I was thinking, oh, this is going to be great. And then it wasn't. I didn't like it too much. It was good, it wasn't great. It wasn't at Black and White standard for me.
How exactly was it not up to Black and White standards? I mean, yeah, I know he said he liked the story and gems in Black and White, but still, a little explanation, maybe some comparisons on how Black and White did better wouldn't hurt, and if anything, it would probably help the audience better grasp your message and drive your points home.
And then Auras was a failure as well, but let's not talk about that. I did enjoy it, the first half though, just like X and Y.
In what sense? Did it get boring halfway through? Did it have too many rivals? Not up to Black and White standards? Come on, man! Don't leave me in the dark! I don't like the dark. It's scary and creepy and it smells like death!
So, one of the things I didn't like about X and Y was the visual style. I didn't mind it, but it didn't look like a Pokemon game to me for some reason. I just don't think it translates well into 3D.
Am I the only one slightly bothered by the fact that he's using a picture from the X and Y beta to try to get his point across, in which of course the 3D may look god-awful? Like really, if you're going to talk about something like this, please use evidence that's relevant to the final product.
And from the concept art you see in the announcement trailer, it looks like they're sticking with that, which is fine. It's not too much of a big deal. I wish I'd use, like, you know, Link to the Past's visual styles. Use that. That'd make it a lot better, I think. Having it top down again. Just don't think it works as, like, looking at Train's back.
But Pokemon X and Y used the top-down camera for the largest portion of the game. I mean, granted, there were quite a few instances where the camera changes to a more earthly angle or just goes freely altogether, but this easily can be pointed to the game trying to set a portrayed mood or set ambience, which can be easily done due to X and Y being on a system with better hardware, and doesn't push away the fact that the top-down overview is still there and quite prominent in the game. And using what you even said about it, it shouldn't even be that big of a deal. After this, he makes a stab about how he doesn't want to see keys, ice cream, trash bags, and shit as designs in the next Pokemon game. You know, as if that hasn't been said already. And he concludes the video after that. So, what can I really say about this? I mean, I get he was trying to discuss things he didn't want to see in Sun and Moon, but most of his reasoning was so meshed together, clunky, poorly interpreted, and even misleading at times that it's not even funny. And yeah, I'm positive this was probably something he made on the fly, but I believe time and some thinking should be put to use before making a video like this. You know, I did a commentary on a Pokemon Sun and Moon rant back when the game was first announced with little to no information given to it, so now that time has gradually passed and the game comes out in 2 months, why not tackle a rant regarding more recent information on the game? In fact, I happen to have this rant on me right now. Let's see here.
Now don't get me wrong, I really enjoy Pokemon games. I've played all of them since Fire Red and Leaf Green, except for Black and White 2, because that's just bullshit going through the same region twice. Like, I don't understand people. Why would you play that? Why would you play that?
And the PTSD's already kicking in. This ought to be fun.
I need to make a video, but I don't really know a subject. But I gotta complain about something. So what will it be? The new YouTube rules? World crisis? Donald Trump? I've got the best idea. The new Pokemon game. This fucking shit. Now don't get me wrong, I really enjoy Pokemon games. I've played all of them since Fire Red and Leaf Green, except for Black and White 2, because that's just bullshit going through the same region twice. Like, I don't understand people. Why would you play that? Why would you play that?
Okay, maybe it's just me, but your wording seems incredibly off. since you said that you've played every game since Fire Red and Leaf Green, shouldn't Platinum also fall into this category, with it being in the same storyline as Diamond and Pearl? I mean, looking past the fact that Platinum and Black 2 and White 2 have completely different concepts, with the former being a third version, while the latter are direct sequels with a completely different setup. But both have the same idea of going through the same region again, and if anything, Platinum would be more guilty of having you repeat the same region almost copy and paste. I mean, maybe there's the chance you played Platinum and didn't like it because of that, but if that's the case, you should have said something more like, yeah, I played Platinum, but I didn't like the concept of exploring an entire region all over again, and was afraid that Black 2 and White 2 would be the same thing. But then again, I could be completely wrong. I mean, he could have not played Platinum for all I know, but the poor and to a point vague wording comes off as not only confusing, but somewhat contradicting. Which, I'm not saying I want to hear him go on a continuous history lesson on the Pokemon games he's played, but at least make sure your wording is descriptive enough that your message doesn't come off as two-sided.
Especially the 3DS Pokemon games were amazing. I really enjoy those. So you can understand that I was also pretty hyped for this game. But when they started releasing more information on the game, I started scratching the back of my head like, guys, did you really spend enough time thinking about this? So I'm just gonna talk it through with you guys, okay? I will be the very best. So pretty much every Pokemon game has had the same story so far. You're a 10-year-old kid going on an adventure with his Pokemon, trying to get all the badges to catch all Pokemon, but then there's this team that wants to catch a legendary Pokemon. Some people ask you to kick their ass, then you kick their ass, you keep on going with your adventure, and this group just keeps coming back to the point where you're almost done with your gyms, and they are going to catch that legendary Pokemon. You stop them, and then you take that legendary Pokemon for yourself, because you're just a greedy fuck. Now that's what you would have expected from this game too, right? Well, fuck no. They've removed gyms. Yeah, that's right. They've removed gyms. Like, what the fuck? Now I can understand why they've done this. Obviously, to make it more original, to make it stand out from all the other games, make it fresh, make it a new game. So they're like, alright, let's do something different. I can accept that. But, you know, I like my gyms. So what they've done in this game is they made 4 islands. You start on one island, obviously. You do some missions, some quests, some MMO shit. No, I'm just kidding. You do some stuff on one island, and when you're pro enough, you get to go to the next and to the next, and you can understand how it goes.
Cool, great, lovely explanation. 11 out of 10, IGN certified rating. But seriously, yeah, the trials are indeed in-game challenges, that much is true, but can I at least note that the trials are said to be various puzzles such as finding items or testing your knowledge? So far it sounds a lot like the gyms. Then after you finish the trial, you have to battle the island's kahuna, in which if you win, you're noted that you have officially cleared the trial and are allowed to continue to the next island. Again, strongly similar to that of a gym leader, where you receive a badge which certifies that you've beaten one of 8 gyms required. And in the case of some games, you aren't allowed to continue further into the game unless you've beaten said gym. I mean, I can give. There are some differences such as the totem Pokemon at the end of trials that you have to beat in order to challenge the kahuna, and from what we know, there's only 4 challenges as opposed to the usual 8 gyms, but even with that, the trials are still fairly on par with gyms that it's kinda quick to write them off as a drastic change. Also, I want to quickly note this, but for every segment after this, he shows footage from the Sun and Moon trailers before or while he explains them, but here, nothing. It's not only inconsistent, but honestly, I think I could have helped this segment a lot, either by allowing you to explain the island challenges a bit more in depth, or in some sort of way fill in what you might have left out, or just give your audience a somewhat better grasp on the concept.
Obviously, I cannot say whether this will be good or bad, but I don't know. So for now, I'm just gonna say it's gonna be fucking bad.
Oh, I see how it is. Like, I get having doubts, but I find saying something's gonna be bad unless proven otherwise to be silly in the nicest worded way possible. I get being hesitant about new ideas, but writing it off as bad is kind of extreme, especially in this weird flip-floppy way.
Oh, but that's so nice. You cannot say that yet if you do not know what—
Spoderman? Okay, maybe I don't have to continue this commentary. Maybe this nice memed superhero person thing will continue the commentary for me.
Spoderman, what the fuck did I say about being innovative? Come here, I'm gonna fucking beat you up. Yeah, take that, I will beat you. Fuck you. Get out of my videos right fucking now.
Guys?
Help me.
Pikachu, I choose you!
Oh wow, Vulpix and Ninetales. I can't wait to see what they've done with what the... Okay, look, I understand that you want to be original. I understand that you want to make this a good game. I understand that you want new, interesting concepts. But don't turn a fire type into an ice type, you fucking idiots.
Okay, why? No, really, why? Really though, what I had to guess from your very joking and incredibly beat around the bush wording is that either it's bad because it's now a type that it's normally weak against, going from a fire type to an ice type, or that it's an unoriginal concept since you mentioned Game Freak wanting to be original. Sadly, I can't debate either stance because you don't bother explaining further.
Oh, and guys, take a look at this, alright? You got Meowth, a normal type. They turn him into a badass dark type. Alright, so you're probably thinking, oh yeah, that would be fucking badass, dude. Well, no, they made him fucking gay. I mean, take a look at this. What the fuck, Meowth? What are you trying to be sexy? You're battling, you're dark, you're badass. Go fight, go kick some ass.
Because Dark clearly has to be an overtly edgy murderer with no senses whatsoever. But really though, it does make sense if you think about it, in the sense that Alola and Meowth were pampered and treated like royalty, which made them cunning, prideful, selfish, and greedy, hence the appearance and the type change. It's the Pokemon's appearance and personality that makes it Dark, not that it wants to kill everything in sight. That's of course noting that Dark is commonly associated with cruel and sometimes evil, something that Alola and Meowth's tropes can easily be applied to.
Don't stand there being, oh, I'm fabulous, oh my god, Jesus Christ. Now they prove that they can actually do it right with this Marowak. Look at this shit. That's how you do it. That's how you make badass Pokemon. Good job. Fucking applause for you, you fucking idiots.
Just not going to show Alolan and Marowak's typing. I'm not asking this because he showed them for the other Alolan forms, though that could be pointed out as an inconsistency, but for another reason. You remember a few interjections ago where he complains about Vulpix going from a fire type to an ice type? Well, let me point something out. Marowak's guilty of the same thing. Regular Marowak is a ground type, while Alolan Marowak is a fire and ghost type. Again, if Vulpix becoming a type weaker than it originally was is what you were complaining about, then that problem shines here too. And because of how vague you were back then, all I'm left with are assumptions and no answers, which is not a good sign.
Pikachu, I choose you!
Oh look, we do get to talk about Donald Trump. Because if this guy evolves by giving him a small loan of $1 million, you get this guy. And when he's about to do his speech, he just starts burning and he kicks all of their asses.
Oh, hi Totem Pokemon footage! How's the weather? Like, I get this was a joke, but you've clearly seen the Island Challenge footage, seeing how you used some of it for this joke. So, going back to one of my original points, why not also use the footage to help describe the Island Challenges themselves? You clearly have access to it, so use it for easier explanation if you have it. Anyways, that's all I have to say. Really, I think the thing that killed this rant the most is how vague and poorly explained some of the points are. I get you want to be jokey and over the top, that's actually completely understandable, but you have to make sure you even it out with actual information. That way you're giving needed information for context on what you're discussing, and your audience isn't left with various questions in the end. Yep, I'm finally back with some kind of video. I don't care what it is, it's at least something. So, here's the context of what's happening. Here's two people, okay? Great. Now here's a PokeTuber guy. The PokeTuber guy did a video about his 10 least favorite Pokemon abilities, which was a bit hit or miss. Okay, but it did miss the mark quite a bit. The two people made a co-op on the list, which felt like it went out of its way to miss the mark more than the original video. And that's what brought me back from the dead today. With that, let's begin. Oh, Jesus Christ almighty lord. This is gonna be a hard one to get through, is it?
Everyone knows what a Pokemon ability is, right? It provides some sort of help to the Pokemon in or outside of battle, and almost every Pokemon has one or two normal abilities and one hidden ability. Now with that said, not every ability is useful to its Pokemon, and some are just so bad that they make the Pokemon completely useless, so today we're going to be looking at 10 of the worst Pokemon abilities we can find. Before I start, keep in mind that this list contains abilities that are exclusive to some Pokemon, maybe one or two, and they're all just based around my opinion, so if you guys disagree or feel that just narrowing it down to exclusive abilities isn't nice, of course make sure you guys leave your own list down below in the comment section. But with that being said, let's get started.
Why does it take 7 seconds to fade in? You kinda lack an introduction, so we only really know who you are and what you're doing here thanks to your username. We just kinda get thrown into the video with no context. Also, completely useless? Every ability has a use. Sure, it's easier to find worth in some abilities compared to others, but just because in some abilities it's hard to find a use, that doesn't mean it's useless.
Maybe just a me thing, but he said the abilities in question could make the Pokemon that holds it useless. Not that the abilities themselves are useless, more implying that the abilities could work against the Pokemon rather than benefit it. Sure, each ability has a use of some sort, but he was instead trying to say that those specific uses aren't always going to have promising results.
Starting off the list, we have the ability Illuminate. So unless you actually want to run into a lot of wild Pokemon, this ability completely sucks. If you forgot to stock up on repels when you're entering a route and have a Pokemon that leads your party with the ability Illuminate, the rate at which you encounter Pokemon is increased by 100%.
This is why you check your bag in advance to check for repels or buy more before heading off if you don't want to worry about running into wild mons. Or if you can, stay out of the grass in the first place.
Why, thank you for this enlightening and eye-opening statement that has opened the eyes of, like, 3 people. If that. But for real, Gale, what does this add? You could say that he was implying that it was important to stock up on repels if you have a Pokemon with Illuminate by mentioning it in the first place. Popping up to say, well then, you should stock up on repels then, hee-ho, doesn't do much, if anything.
That is crazy considering me, personally, I hate running into wild Pokemon non-stop, leaving this ability at least at number 10 because you can always stock up on repels and it doesn't really sound that bad.
Illuminate only takes effect when the Pokemon with the ability is in the front of your party. So here's a crazy idea, Relic Boy! Switch your team around! Secondly, let's have a look at the list of Pokemon that can have this ability that you show, shall we? Volbeat, Watchog, the Staryu line, the Chinchou line, and Morlul. All of these Pokemon have alternate abilities, so it's not like you're restricted to Illuminate or anything.
Neat. Good thing he's talking about Illuminate and not the Pokemon that can possess Illuminate. Doesn't matter if they can have a different ability, it doesn't change that he has gripes with this specific ability. Like, you started off with a good point, then you had to go and tack this on for, to be blunt, absolutely no reason.
You know, there are situations in which Illuminate is actually quite useful. I know he said at the start of the entry, quote, unless you actually want to run into a lot of wild Pokemon, end quote, but the way he said that gives off the impression that he doesn't seem to know why people would want to do that.
I'm sorry? How? All I heard him say was...
So unless you actually want to run into a lot of wild Pokemon...
He doesn't talk down to anyone that wants to run into wild Pokemon. He doesn't sound oblivious to wanting to run into wild Pokemon. He just notes it on the side and goes on his way. And if there's something I'm actually missing, then that's on you for not even bothering to go in a bit deeper and actually show how he's showing ignorance in this.
Next up at number 9, we have the ability Leaf Guard. Now when it comes to this ability, for me personally, it just goes kind of 50-50, but basically what it does is when the sun is up, a Pokemon with Leaf Guard cannot be inflicted with status conditions, so it can be paralyzed, it can be burned, or put to sleep, and so on. But if you don't have the move Sunny Day or another Pokemon with Drought, the ability just becomes completely useless. And even if you do have Sunny Day, why would you go for it instead of going for another move that will make your Pokemon's stats more powerful?
What, you mean like the Rest Belly Drum combo? You do realize that the combo to better the status conditions and stats of that one Pokemon takes up half of the Pokemon's moveset, right?
Okay, let's just full on stop here because this is just amazing. So you don't even know what he's talking about, so you pull some random move combo out of nowhere just to go on a tangent about it? For all you know, he might not even be talking about the Rest Belly Drum combo, yet here we are right now talking about some random set of moves that weren't even a part of the argument in the first place. Also, from the way he said it, it seems he meant that he would rather use stat-changing moves rather than waste a move slot on Sunny Day. He never even mentions combos or strategies, just that he'd rather fill up an extra move slot with a stat-boosting move rather than Sunny Day. So it seems to make more sense to think he's just talking about general stat-boosting moves.
Also, you're missing the point of what makes Leaf Guard work in Sunny Day teams. Yes, without Sunny Day it is useless, but there is a reason you see it in Sunny Day teams. Teamwork. It's that potential for team synergy that makes it stand out. Leaf Guard, due to nullifying the potential for status conditions such as paralysis to be inflicted, allow those mons to support their team members better. Here's another thing. If you take a closer look, you'll notice that quite a few of those Leaf Guard mons have access to some unique and powerful support moves. In particular, Lurantis, Sarina, Jumpluff, Roselia, and Meganium all have access to aromatherapy. Meganium in particular stands out due to its status as the grass-type starter, less known for offense and more known for support. Now some of you may think that due to Leaf Guard preventing the Pokemon from being inflicted with status conditions in sunny weather, that it brings down the usefulness of aromatherapy. That is not the case. 1, that's assuming that sunny weather teams will be able to keep up the sunny weather all the time. 2, aromatherapy is used more to heal the status conditions of the rest of the party, not the one using the move. That's why the move only has 5 PP. It may depend on how dedicated to support you want said support mon to be, but Leaf Guard can be a really good ability in a sunny weather team if you use it right.
I mean, this is good and all, but aromatherapy is still only used by a small fraction of the Pokemon that have Leaf Guard. I get what you're trying to say, but this could have worked much better if you were to give a small sample of different support moves that could be used by different Leaf Guard mons, rather than an essay on how aromatherapy is the best thing since 420. Even with that, does the ability work well with physical mons? Because that would be good too. Just because a Pokemon can gain an advantage of an ability thanks to one move, doesn't mean the ability still can't come off as a hindrance to others.
And finally, how do stat-altering moves and abilities make this ability bad?
They don't? He never even said that. All he said was that he preferred to teach Pokemon stat-changing moves rather than Sunny Day. Not once did he imply that stat-changing moves on their own made Leaf Guard bad. You two are looking way too deep into such a small statement for issues.
This one is where the bullshit starts. This ability is only available to Archean and Archeops, but in the number 7 spot, we have the ability Defeatist, which basically lowers Archean and Archeops' attack and special attack in half when its HP is below 50%. It's basically a pile of garbage if you can't take out the other Pokemon before that happens, or unless you have a Citrus Berry on it to save the day, you're just gonna be stuck with a weak mon at lower than half health.
Citrus Berry? Teach it Roost. That move recovers half its health every time it's used, so when it's at just over half, it's right back at full. Also, if the mod that Archeops is going up against is that much of a threat, there's another solution. Just switch it out.
Aesop's very compelling argument over here has left me speechless. Nothing I can do, guys. Seriously now, literally none of this debunks what he said. He gives how an ability genuinely cripples a Pokemon, and you just nitpick how he heals it and say, oh, just switch it out. If anything, the fact that he has to switch it out now, thanks to its GIMP stats, furthers his point that, yeah, this ability is a hindrance rather than beneficial.
Speaking of being useless, number 6 is the ability Plus and Minus. Yes, we're gonna share those two because they work the same way in a sense. Now, if a Pokemon has the ability Plus, he powers up the special attack of a Pokemon that has the Minus ability, and the other way around.
Completely forgetting the fact that Gen 5 added the double positive and double negative effects in an attempt to boost both abilities. It shows it right in your screen caps.
So that means that it only works in double battles. You're probably gonna need 2 electric types because they're the only types that can have this ability. And let's just take a moment to realize that most of the game are in single battles. So in a nutshell, the ability sucks unless you're willing to capture 2 electric types with those abilities for just a couple of double battles.
You might want to recheck that list of yours again, Relic. The Clink line is a pure steel type, so, congrats, you just lied to your audience.
Or he just messed up on his information? Yes, he's wrong on this. Yes, he should be more careful with his information. But it's a bit of a stretch to say he went out of his way to lie about one Pokemon line's typing for a group of abilities that are still primarily used by electric types.
As for your single-player or campaign argument, places like the Battle Subway, several trainer double battles, and the Pokemon World Tournament poke holes here.
The Battle Subway and World Tournament are optional side parts of the game, and double battles are still much less common than single trainer battles. The fact that he says most of the game makes me want to think he's talking about the main story, which, yeah, generally has more single than double battles. He's not wrong with this. The fact that one-off battle facilities exist, and once-in-a-blue moon double battles happen, doesn't change that the game still primarily uses single battles. He also goes on to mention the double wild Pokemon battles and the darker grass patches in the Gen 5 games, but this still hinges on the points I mentioned.
Coming in at number 5 is the ability Slow Start, which is exclusive to Regigigas. Slow Start halves the attack and speed of Regigigas for 5 turns. The idea of a Pokemon being legendary is supposed to be because it's strong, but with the ability Slow Start, you can probably just kill Regigigas in an instant, and heck, when you encounter it in Pokemon Platinum, it's level 1, so you're gonna need to use False Swipe to try and catch it. But that's not the issue here.
Why did you bring it up?
To give his audience an idea of what the ability does, while giving an idea of why people could have problems with it. Just because he has one major issue doesn't mean he can't take the time to discuss a minor one as well.
Considering Regigigas is a legendary Pokemon, the ability Slow Start just makes it so unfair for it compared to the other legendaries.
This is why the competitive players who use Regigigas in the low tier teach it Thunder Wave. Regigigas spends the first 5 turns with its attack and speed cut in half, while the opponent's Paralysis leaves its speed cut by 75% pre-Gen 7, along with a 25% chance of not being able to move at all, and that Paralysis lasts until that condition is healed. Who do you think is better off?
Okay, cool. But the ability is still a handicap, as he said, and having to teach a status move to compensate for it only furthers this.
Although I understand it's been in a long slumber and you had to collect all the Regis for it, but Slow Start for our legendary Pokemon like Regigigas really seems unfair, making it at number 5 today.
You just brought up why it works in flavor. Mechanically, yes, it's a huge nerf.
Yes, exactly! Thank you! He never said that all these abilities have absolutely no workarounds like you keep trying to talk about. He's only describing how they can nerf the Pokemon.
But I brought up how competitive players try to work around it, and you brought up how it fits in flavor. So, what's the problem?
Now on to the main point, it works with the lore in the game. Okay, that's cute and all, but that doesn't change that the ability causes a huge hindrance every time you send it out, nor should it be an excuse to do so. Which I should also clarify, yes, Slow Start resets if you ever switch Regigigas out of battle, which could also add to how the ability can be seen as an annoyance.
The next ability is another exclusive one, this time to Skitty and Delcatty, with a little bit of benefits, but at the same time it doesn't really help out as much. Number 4, we have Normalize, which literally turns every move into a normal type attack. So if you have Thunderbolt, it's a normal type. Ice Beam, it's also a normal type. Now I'm gonna admit it, it's good if you're gonna have something like Thunder Wave, because you'll be able to paralyze ground type Pokemon.
And you just brought up the saving point of Normalize. What exactly makes it bad again?
Christ, I don't know. It's almost like things can have both advantages and shortcomings or something.
But at the same time, you can't hit it on a Ghost type because they're gonna be immune.
Unless Foresight or Odor Sleuth was used on said Ghost type in advance. Skitty can learn Foresight via level up,
thus allowing the Skitty line to rain down destruction on the Ghost type in any way it pleases. Nice try, buddy, but we're wise to your game.
No. I don't think it's as easy as you two are making it out to be. First off, the fact that you have to use Foresight to begin with could easily give away to the opponent that something may be up, in which they could either switch Pokemon if possible, or try to get 1 or 2 good hits onto the Skitty, which mixed with the lines for stats could end up killing it if you're unlucky, and ultimately ruining your foolproof and amazing plan.
Now the stab is great and all of that, but Delcatty actually needs a coverage of moves because its stats suck. So having a lot of normal type moves doesn't really help it out.
so use it as a support mod. It's true that you'd only get real use out of Thunder Wave that way, but Foresight can allow it to hit every type of Pokemon except for Electric, and that's from Gen 6 on. And for the Electric mons, there's Attract. It may only work on those who have the opposite gender, but there's a coin flip's chance of the opponent not being able to move.
Although it's even worse than Thunder Wave because of it not only working only on the opposite gender, but the fact that it also wears off either on its own or if the Pokemon is switched out, something Paralysis does not.
And you can use this to your advantage to attack that mon. Return's probably your best bet. There's also Giga Impact, but it's more risky to use. For the mons that can't be attracted, it should go without saying that you should switch out. You know what? This sounds less like you're complaining about the Normalize ability itself, and more like you're complaining about the fact that only the Skitty evolution line got the Normalize ability.
How? Because he mentioned the Skitty line's poor stats? Because he only mentioned that because he feels it needs a larger type variety in place of the poor stats. The fact that he initially said that the ability doesn't work well with ghosts, and that he in general hates what the ability does, should say that yes, he doesn't like Normalize itself.
Coming in at number 2 today, we have the Moody ability.
Moody? Moody, as in one of the few abilities that has been banned from competitive play? Enlighten me.
Moody increases a random stat by 2 stages and lowers another random stat by 1. Let's say you're a physical attacker with Moody and keep getting your defense or any other stat that you really don't need raised and your attack or speed lowered. Obviously, that's not going to be a good time. I get that the stat you prefer may get raised, but it's random every turn and it might get lowered the next time. So having Moody is just really luck-based, and that's why it's so high up on the list at number 2 today.
Should I say it or should you?
Let's both say it. You're basing your entire argument on a hypothetical when Moody is completely randomized.
Oh, sweet Jesus almighty. First off the bat, that doesn't mean the ability can't become a hindrance. That doesn't mean he can't find the ability annoying. Second, you yourselves have also been using hypotheticals throughout the video to try to debunk him, particularly in the Klutz segment I skipped.
Like, say you have a Klutz Golurk holding a black sludge against a Heat Rotom with a Flame Orb. A typical strategy with Heat Rotom is to trick a Flame Orb onto the opponent. Now, let's say that Heat Rotom uses Trick. The black sludge gives chip damage to any Pokemon holding it that isn't Poison type. So, the Heat Rotom will receive chip damage from the black sludge, and the Golurk will receive no burn status due to the Klutz ability preventing the Flame Orb from taking effect.
Even with this, in his case, he more often than not has been using broad examples that could cover the general game for his reasoning, while you two keep using extremely specific strategies and move pools, mostly used in competitive play, as the end-all be-all of why he's wrong with his reasoning. This constant problem of yours is why I ended up skipping some segments in their entirety, because I don't want to harp on this issue constantly. So I admit I don't have much else to say. They talk about his number 1 segment, which is about Darmanitan's Zen mode, and overall the points they made were alright. Nothing much I can say about that. Okay, enough of that noise, let's move on. So, this video was something. I'm not even sure where to begin. Like, what was this? If there was one thing that bothered me the most, it was how you two kept bringing up random strategies and workarounds for the abilities mentioned that honestly disprove little to anything. Yeah, you did try to disprove his reasoning here and there, but the fact that you instead continuously opted out to just giving moves in strategic garble just boggles me. Just because the problem can be downplayed in some way, that doesn't make the problem non-existent. The problem is still there. Combine this with the subpar editing that plagues the video, along with putting words in Relic's mouth on multiple occasions, and you have a, well, less than stellar result. Not the worst thing I've seen, but far from the best. Enigma, I know you said you wanted to start the year fresh, and trust me, I feel like you can get better if you stay determined to, but honestly, you still have a bit of a way to go. Though despite that, I do see some possible potential. And I'm sure most of you that have followed me for a while now know that I don't have anything against Gale. It's just she happened to be in a flawed video.